Amazing millionaire goes undercover as a janitor to find his son's mother. You won't believe what happens next. Michael Donovan sat in his glass-walled office, the Chicago skyline reflecting back his success like a cruel joke. The city pulsed with life outside, but inside, he felt nothing but emptiness. His tech startup thrived, and he reveled in the luxurious lifestyle it afforded him. Yet, a profound chasm yawned where his familial connection should be. Cole, his 16-year-old son, lived in a world cut off from his father, consumed by adolescent angst, navigating a labyrinth of pain without his once nurturing mother. The absence was suffocating, an aching void that taunted Michael daily. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the sprawling layout of numbers and projections that signified his triumph. Yet, every dollar piled high in his bank account felt like a weight pressing down on him. He felt like a ghost slipping further away from the real world, detached from the one person who mattered most. Guilt clawed at him for failing as both a father and a husband. His thoughts spiraled. What had he done wrong? In the ruthless pursuit of success, had he lost the very essence of what it meant to be a family? Then, in a moment of clarity, the absurdity of an idea struck him. He could go undercover, not as a businessman or a philanthropist but as a janitor in Cole's high school. It sounded ridiculous, yet somehow it seemed the only way to breach the wall between them. Perhaps, he thought, if he stepped out of his designer shoes and into worn-out sneakers, he might catch a glimpse of his son's life, the boy he once knew so well. Now a stranger behind a barrier of teenage disappointment. In his cramped apartment that night, adorned with reminders of his past, Michael donned the uniform. Dark shirt, faded overalls, and a mop in hand. His reflection stared back at him, a man stripped of his wealth, identity, and social mask. He inhaled sharply, his heart racing, nerves on edge as he stepped into Lincoln High. The atmosphere enveloped him with a vibrant chaos, the energy of youthful ambition and anxiety, intoxicating yet overwhelming. He met Mr. Jenkins, the elderly janitor, whose weary smile spoke volumes. With every floor he mopped, each student he encountered, Michael felt layers of his own privilege peeling away. Here, he was Mr. Donnelly, a mere spectator, observing struggles and friendships forged in hallways echoing with laughter and tears. But unease prickled at him, forcing him to confront the specter of his own inadequacies. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then came a moment that shattered his heart, overhearing a student's hushed tones in the corridor. Cole's mother was teaching at Lincoln High, balancing 2 jobs, each paycheck stretched too thin. Rage ignited within Michael, directed at an unseen enemy, but also at himself. The undeniable truth hit him hard. He had failed them both. He had done nothing but fuel the chasm that had already torn their family apart. But his clandestine mission was unraveling. Cole walked in one afternoon, proud and defensive, unknowingly standing up for the father he didn't know was hidden beneath the janitor's guise. As disbelief morphed into fury, Cole discovered Michael's identity. Betrayal sparked like a match struck against kindling. Their fragile connection shattered. The weight of misunderstanding hung heavy in the air, making every breath a struggle. Michael was trapped between revelation and retreat, regret and resolve. The echoes of Mr. Jenkins' voice loomed in his mind, reminding him that true connection was not defined by wealth, but by authenticity and vulnerability. As the day waned, tension suffused the school, immersing them in uncharted waters of outrage and sorrow. Standing at the precipice of a decision, he felt the gnawing urge to talk, to apologize, to connect. But how could he renew trust when he had begun their journey with deception? Would he dare to risk everything by revealing himself to Cole? Uncertainty gripped him, a palpable dread navigating the course of their future. As the air thickened with tension, Michael stood unable to move, an electric silence enveloping him and Cole. His son's eyes, initially wide with disbelief, sparked with indignation, as if igniting a fire within him. Each heartbeat echoed the severity of the moment, like a clock ticking away opportunities for reconciliation. "Why would you do this?" Cole spat, his voice barely containing its bitter eruption. "Is this some kind of sick joke? You've been acting like a ghost, and now I find out you've been here, hiding?" Michael's heart sank at the accusation, each word a stone cast into his already turbulent seas of guilt and regret. He had created this situation, one rooted in misunderstandings and inadequacies, and now it was crashing down, exposing his futile attempts to connect. Each look from Cole dug deeper, tethering together moments of lost opportunities and broken communication. "I'm not here to hurt you, Cole." Michael faltered, realizing how inadequate his explanations sounded. The weight of his own neglected fatherhood bore down heavily now. "I just wanted to understand, to be closer to you. I thought maybe if I saw your world." Cole's disbelief morphed into contempt. "By lying to me? By pretending to be someone you're not? You think that's how you fix things?" The anger in his son's voice ignited a sense of clarity in Michael. Stripped of pretense, he understood this wasn't merely about him donning a disguise. It was about choices and the repercussions that flowed from them. Each second felt like a lifetime as their unresolved bond hung precariously in the air, waiting for someone to take a leap of faith. "I messed up, Cole. No excuses. I left you and your mother when you needed me the most," Michael admitted, finally succumbing to the gravity of honesty. He was no longer the successful entrepreneur cloaked in arrogance, but a father searching for a connection he had carelessly severed. "I thought I could find a way back into your life by seeing it through your eyes, but all I have done is betray your trust." The silence clung to them again, this time heavy with a mix of hurt and contemplation. Michael saw the conflict wash over Cole's face, the turbulence of emotions swirling within. Would his son consider forgiveness? Or was this the final blow to a relationship strained thin? "Why should I believe you now?" Cole asked, his tone softening yet still guarded. You've watched me struggle from the shadows, and now you want to step into the light? I don't expect you to trust me right away. I've broken that bond, and I'll have to earn it back. But I'm willing to put in the work. No more lies." Michael took a step forward, and each inch felt monumental against the weight of their past. "I want to be here for you, whether it's as a father or just as a person trying to understand." The soil of reconciliation was far from fertile. There were no guarantees that it would bloom. But in that moment, Michael felt a flicker of determination stir within him. If he was going to salvage anything from this catastrophe, it would require a reckoning not only with Cole but with himself. "Let me try," Michael implored, his voice earnest, stripped of the bravado of a millionaire. "Give me a chance to show you who I can be." Cole's expression remained unreadable, the battle within still raging. Michael braced himself for the words that might follow, the decision that would either build them a bridge or irrevocably deepen the chasm. Would his son's heart open, or had Michael blown his last chance? They stood amid the chaos of a bustling high school, two broken pieces struggling to fit back together, clashing against the backdrop of youthful exuberance and regret. The future loomed ahead, uncertain and fraught with potential, but for the first time, Michael felt the fragile threads of hope weaving between them. Then, just as understanding seemed within reach, Cole turned to leave, his silhouette marching away into the thrumming heart of the school. "I need time to think," he called back, the finality echoing in Michael's heart like a tolling bell. Everything hung in limbo as Michael understood that the journey had only just begun. He was no longer merely an undercover father. He had become an agent of transformation, poised to face the realities of rebuilding his life. Somewhere amid that chaos, a revelation flickered in the back of his mind. If he truly wanted to be involved in his son's life, he would have to confront deeper issues, his own failures and the consequences of his detached ambition. As Michael contemplated his next steps, he resolved that he couldn't just wait in the shadows anymore. He had ignited a fiery beginning that demanded action. Would he have the courage to confront the enigma of Cole's struggles head-on? The moment was fast approaching when he would have to decide. Dive into the depths of fatherhood fully or step back into the shadows and watch yet another chance slip away. Michael stood alone amidst the bustling school corridor, the echoes of laughter and teenage chatter amplifying his solitude. The vibrant chaos around him served as a jarring reminder of the world from which he had distanced himself. He shifted his focus inward, wrestling with the swelling feeling of inadequacy that accompanied each breath. How had he let time slip through his fingers? The last conversation with Cole lingered in his mind, and the weight of their fractured relationship pressed down like a physical burden. He tugged at the collar of his worn jacket, a symbol of his undercover status as a janitor. This disguise, which he had thought might allow him to seamlessly observe and connect with his son, now felt like a shackle. Each layer of anonymity seemed to deepen the chasm between them, a stark reminder of the distance he had created in both his professional and personal life. As he tried to collect his thoughts, Michael found himself reminiscing about moments with Cole that had slipped away over the years, the laughter, the shared interests, the father-son outings that had filled his heart with pride. In an instant, all those memories turned to ash, burnt by the reality of betrayal. If he wanted a second chance, he needed to actively confront his past mistakes instead of hiding behind a facade. A surge of determination surged within him. Instead of defaulting to his old ways of retreating into success, Michael decided he must step fully into the role of a father, not through observation but through genuine presence and commitment. He had to delve deeper than crafting excuses that fed his ambitions. He was resolved to be different, unwilling to stand on the sidelines and allow the tide of his son's life to wash past him again. With renewed purpose, Michael expanded his efforts beyond the shadows of the school. He began volunteering for after-school programs, an avenue where he might connect with Cole indirectly through shared interests. He signed up for the art club, surprising himself with the creative spark he had long buried beneath layers of corporate attire. Paint-splattered shirts and messy hands felt good, reminding him that every stroke was a risk, just like his journey into the murky waters of rebuilding trust with his son. In those moments of authentic connection with the students, Michael discovered a side of himself he hadn't fully embraced: vulnerability. Engaging in conversations about personal dreams, artistic frustrations, and the simple joys of teenage life brought him awkward reassurance. He started to see bits of himself in the other students, snippets of the desires that had been lost in pursuit of success. Yet amid this newfound clarity lay a daunting question. How would Cole react to his attempts to rebuild bridges? Would Cole recognize this as an effort to connect or dismiss it as yet another disguise? The fear of rejection loomed large, echoing back to their previous interactions. Each small success was quickly tempered by the weight of anticipation. Michael continued to exercise patience, showing up consistently, making himself available, all while casting aside the earlier bravado that once equated worth with professional accolades. He began to confront his own insecurities, reflecting on how deeply he longed for acceptance not just from Cole but from himself. Each small victory became a testament to his evolving identity, one where he could integrate the complexities of fatherhood with the vulnerabilities of being human. As the weeks passed, he hoped that Cole would begin to see him not as a stranger in disguise but as a father willing to nurture a wounded bond. Yet, just as his resolve seemed to gain momentum, a chance encounter shattered his fragile optimism. One afternoon, while cleaning the art room, Michael overheard two students gossiping nearby, mentioning Cole's recent struggles with his friends and his emotional turmoil. A visceral sense of dread surged within him. This was a side of his son he had hoped to shield him from. Would Michael dare approach Cole about what he had heard, or risk additional rifts? As the timer of his heart raced, he realized that the time for passive observation had passed. Understanding that exceptional growth often emerges from uncomfortable conversations, he wrestled with the choice to face the complexities of his son's struggles head-on. The weight of the task ahead loomed larger than ever. In this pivotal moment, the stakes of becoming the father he desired to be were clearer than ever before. Would Michael find the courage to face Cole's vulnerabilities directly, or would uncertainty grip him once again, pushing him back into his shell? The stakes felt higher than ever as he prepared to step forward and confront the very essence of his renewed purpose. The next chance for redemption rested precariously on his next decision, a decision that could either solidify their journey toward healing or compound their heartache. Michael stood in the dimly lit art room, the smell of paint and the vibrant colors surrounding him offering a sense of comfort. Yet, the more he lingered, the more the news he had overheard churned in his mind. Cole was struggling not just with friends but with emotions and issues that seemed insurmountable for a teenager. The realization weighed heavy on Michael's conscience, transforming his nervous energy into an electric tension that made him stand still. He had entered this phase of his life, this janitorial disguise, hoping to bridge the gap between father and son, only to discover that the gulf was wider and more treacherous than he had anticipated. He could no longer hide behind the guise of a mere observer. If he wanted a real connection, it required him to engage with Cole's truth directly, no matter how uncomfortable that truth might be. His heart raced with equal parts anxiety and determination as he made his way to the small office where teachers could sometimes find a refuge. The decision loomed like a dark cloud overhead. Should he confront Cole about what he had heard? Wouldn't that only bring more shame and distance? Or was this his moment to step out of the shadows completely? He recalled the vulnerability he had started embracing in the art club, the candid conversations, the shared laughter, and felt an urge to replicate that authenticity with Cole. Perhaps being open about his concerns could spark the trust that he longed for. Driven by a sudden impulse, he sought out Cole's best friend, Nathan. They had crossed paths often in the art room, and Michael had picked up on an underlying camaraderie that held potential. Nathan seemed grounded, with an understanding of the tangled social dynamics of adolescence. Michael needed insight, an honest perspective that would help him navigate this minefield. "Hey, Nathan, can I talk to you for a second?" Michael approached the teenager hesitantly. The authority of a father contrasted against the insecurity fluttering in his chest. "Sure, Mr. Ford," he replied, leaning back against a desk, his demeanor relaxed and open. The casualness of their conversation set the stage for what Michael hoped would be an honest dialogue. "I heard some things about Cole, and I'm worried," he said, his voice dipped in sincerity. "He doesn't seem like himself lately." The boy's expression shifted, a moment of gravity replacing the previous ease. "Yeah, he has been kinda down. A lot of stuff happening with his friends. I think he feels really alone," Nathan confessed. "Sometimes he just needs someone to talk to." Michael's mind raced. He had to tread carefully. He didn't want to breach Cole's trust or expose him to the harsh realities of the adult world without his consent. Does he talk to you about it? Or anyone else?" Nathan shrugged. "Not really. He just kinda bottles it up. He has always been more private. But I know, deep down, he could really use some support, especially from you." The weight of Nathan's words pressed down on Michael. He was Cole's father, the one person who should have been the first source of support. This was not just about repairing their relationship anymore. It was also about actively participating in Cole's life, helping him navigate the very real tribulations of adolescence. "Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate your honesty," Michael replied, straightening himself. His heart shifted. Now he had a path forward, an opportunity to break through the silence. In the days following, Michael's resolve grew stronger. He spent the time he might have used to obsess over his professional shortcomings learning about emotional vulnerability. He read books on parenting and connected with togetherness strategies, desperately trying to cultivate empathy and openness. The day came when he gathered the courage to approach Cole in the quiet of the park, one afternoon after school. He had purposely chosen this neutral ground, a space where they could be distant yet close, a balance of safety amidst their turbulence. He felt the cool breeze swirl around them, carrying the burdens of unspoken words. "Hey, can we talk a minute?" he began, his heart thundering in rhythm with the rustling leaves. He was suddenly acutely aware of how fragile this interaction might be, how much was riding on his next words as Cole shifted his gaze. Michael prepared for what lay ahead. This was the pivotal moment he had fought through layers of self-doubt to reach. The moment of truth hovered close, ready to redefine their relationship. Would Cole let him in, or would he retreat behind the walls he had built over years? "Yeah, sure, what's up?" Cole replied, his guarded eyes betraying a hint of curiosity. With that simple question, A glimmer of hope ignited within Michael. He had taken a step forward, and whatever came next would be a new chapter together or apart. The confrontation had begun. In that moment, the stakes were higher than ever. How deep would the wounds run, and would they be able to heal together? Michael took a deep breath, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging heavily in the air between them. He felt the cool breeze brush against his skin, a stark contrast to the heat flooding his chest. This was the moment he needed to capitalize on a chance to open a door that had remained closed for far too long. "Cole," he began, his voice steady yet low, "I've noticed you haven't been yourself lately. I just wanted to see if you're okay." He searched his son's expression for a clue, but Cole's eyes remained shielded, a barricade against direct connection. Doubt prickled at the edges of Michael's confidence. "What do you mean?" Cole responded, his tone evasive. That pretense of indifference was becoming a familiar element in their conversations, and it troubled Michael deeply. "I mean, it just seems like there's a lot on your mind. Sometimes talking about it can help. You know you can come to me, right?" Michael cringed internally as the words left his mouth. They felt too simple for the complex emotions swirling within both of them. But he forged ahead, aware that even if the conversation felt awkward, it was necessary. Cole shifted his weight, his gaze dropping to the ground. "I'm fine. Just typical teenager stuff. You wouldn't understand," he replied, his voice strained, laced with dismissal. That dismissal ignited a simmering determination within Michael. This was not the time to retreat. No, Cole needed him to dig deeper, to be the father he had hoped to be. "Try me," Michael countered gently. "I want to understand. I'm here for you." Cole hesitated, the silence stretching between them like a taut wire ready to snap. Would he allow himself to voice the struggles that tormented him? At that moment, Michael felt a vivid surge of hope, a spark that suggested perhaps this facade could crack. "They just don't get it," Cole finally muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "My friends, they think I'm being dramatic. And I feel so alone sometimes." That admission, however small, made Michael's heart swell. It was an opening, the raw and real struggle of a teenage heart. "Cole, it's okay to feel that way. Everyone goes through rough patches, but you don't have to go through it alone. I mean, you don't know what it's like," he replied, his eyes rising to meet Michael's with an intensity Michael had rarely seen. "You haven't been around." The full weight of those words struck Michael like a blow. He realized this was the harsh truth he'd been avoiding. He was right. He had been absent. "I can't change the past, but I can be here now," he said, his voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. "Let me help you carry some of that weight." As he spoke, an unsettling yet liberating sense of honesty consumed him. The emotional distance he had allowed time to build could be dismantled, brick by brick, with authentic dialogue. It was scary and exhilarating all at once. "Why did you really become a janitor?" Cole asked suddenly, an unreadable expression on his face. "Is it just to watch me?" Michael took a moment, weighing his response. "It's complicated. I wanted to get to know you better, be a part of your world. But I also need to be real with you. I've made a lot of mistakes." Cole's confusion deepened. "You think being a janitor is gonna make me talk? Or do you think it'll change anything?" "It's about being present," Michael replied, holding his son's gaze. "I want to be here for you as a father. I want open conversations. You deserve that." The tension crackled, and for a heartbeat, it felt like they might bridge the chasm between them. Yet, Cole's hardened expression reemerged as he backed away emotionally. "Whatever you say, Dad." The conversation hung suspended like an unfinished painting, a work still in progress. Michael felt his heart sink as Cole turned away, a trace of vulnerability fading quickly. Now more than ever, Michael realized that building this bridge would not be easy. It would require patience, perseverance, and heartfelt engagement. His resolve fortified. He was determined to break the patterns that had formed over years. As he watched Cole walk away, doubt mingled with determination. Would he ever have the courage to be truly honest, both with himself and his son? More challenges awaited, but beneath that shadow, a flicker of hope was born. Next time, he would not only confront the distance between them, but also the lingering tension caused by a past filled with silence. Michael knew that at some point, the lines would have to be drawn after all. This journey was about more than just talking. It was about bridging the divide for real. Michael returned to his small, dimly lit apartment that night, the echoes of their conversation haunting him like shadows. He could still feel the lingering tension hanging in the air, a reminder of the gulf between him and Cole. As he shuffled through the clutter accumulating over the years, he felt an unfamiliar weight pressing down on his chest, not just the weight of regret but the heaviness of realization. He had been caught in a cycle of avoidance, and now it was time to confront it head-on. Sitting at the sparse kitchen table, he opened a notebook filled with reminders and half-finished thoughts. The words "be present" scrawled across the top jumped out at him, a mantra that turned from a vague aspiration into a stark imperative. This was not merely a task he had set for himself. It was a mission. He needed to find a way to truly engage, to dismantle the walls he and Cole had unwittingly built over time. He picked up a pen and started writing down strategies, ideas for starting conversations without forcing them. Maybe they could go for a walk together, share a meal that wasn't tea takeout, or even bond over a sport neither had played but both wanted to try. The challenge was not just getting Cole to open up. It was about positioning himself as someone worth trusting, someone who could heal the wounds of the past. Days passed, and Michael kept a diligent routine at work. He had committed to coming in early and staying late, not only to fulfill his responsibilities as a janitor but to understand the nuances of the environment. He observed the interactions among students and faculty, drawing parallels with his own life. In the laughter and camaraderie he witnessed daily, he saw reflections of the relationship he longed to establish with Cole. But old habits died hard. Each time he spotted an opportunity to reach out to his son, anxiety sequenced through him relentlessly. Was he really ready for another rejection? Then one day, he learned of a major football game at Cole's school. An idea sparked, stirring anticipation alongside dread. Michael decided he would go to watch from the bleachers to offer a visible show of support. He knew that if he wanted to take the next step, he needed to be there to show Cole he was dedicated to being a part of his life. Even in this small way. As the day approached, he felt his resolve wavering. Doubt clawed at him. Would Cole even want him there? What if his mere presence became a source of embarrassment? Despite everything, he knew this was a necessary leap. Uncertainty could no longer dictate his actions. On the day of the game, Michael's heart raced with each step toward the high school stadium. The roaring crowd felt alien yet invigorating. He spotted Cole on the field, soaring under the bright lights, the thrill of competition written all over his face. He clenched his fists, filled with equal parts pride and regret. His son was shining, excelling in something that brought him joy. And Michael? At that moment, he felt like an outsider looking in. What would it take to dismantle the walls between them? How could he convey his commitment to being a father? As the game continued, Michael found himself debating whether this was enough. He could see the culmination of the promise he had made to himself the day he started working at the school, a purpose to engage authentically with the people who meant the most to him. As the game neared its end, a pivotal moment shook him from his thoughts. Cole appeared to be injured, clutching his knee as he fell to the turf. Instinct kicked in, surging through Michael like an electric current. He surged to the sidelines, driven by something he couldn't articulate, fueled by a primal desire to reach out, to be there for his son in a moment of vulnerability. "Cole!" he shouted, his voice rising above the din of the crowd. The surprise on his son's face was palpable as Cole glanced toward him, eyes wide and apprehensive. Michael realized he was no longer just a spectator. He was confronting the moment of truth, the chance to be the father Cole needed, even if uncertain. But as he stepped forward, he couldn't help but wonder if this would mark the beginning of their journey to genuine connection, or if it was just another moment lost to the fear of inadequacy. But deep down, he knew he was ready to show up, ready to break through, and ready to find a way back into Cole's life, even if it began from the sidelines. Michael's heart pounded, drowning out the cacophony of cheers and gasps from the crowd as he ran toward the field, the pain radiating from Cole's downed figure grounding him in purpose. Each step seemed to echo his determination to change, to reclaim the connection he had allowed to diminish through decades of misplaced priorities. Once at the sidelines, he knelt beside Cole, his mind racing. The anguish twisting Cole's features stirred something primal in Michael. A rush of protective instinct surged from the depths of his unresolved guilt. "I'm here," he managed. His voice quavered but steadied by the weight of sincerity. Cole stared up at him, eyes flaring with a mix of surprise and confusion, the expression of a boy not yet accustomed to feeling seen. In that moment, Michael vowed to ensure that this visibility would not be fleeting. He desperately sought the words that could bridge years of silence and misunderstanding. "I know you're hurt, but we can talk. Just us." The young athlete grimaced, adjusting his expression to suppress the pain. "Can you just move?" His tone was sharper than intended. Still pained but littered with the apprehension of being more vulnerable than he wanted. Regret twisted in Michael's stomach at that moment. He had injected himself into Cole's world without permission, a reflection of his own frustrations and unfiltered needs, rather than what his son required. The realization hit hard. Love was not a loud proclamation or a dramatic entrance. Love required listening, respecting boundaries, and often it meant holding back. He stood, backing away slightly. "Okay," he said softly. "I'll be right here." He settled against the fence, careful not to intrude further, preparing himself for whatever might follow once Cole was helped off the field. Shuffling toward the sidelines with a limp under the care of the trainer, Michael felt a swell of determination amidst the rising tide of self-doubt. This was just the first step, yet it was crucial. His journey toward fatherhood would require more than mere appearances. It needed action, patience, and consistent presence. The game concluded with a victory, the crowd erupting into cheers around him. But all Michael could focus on was Cole, now perched on a bench, head down like someone carrying the weight of the world. A primal urge compelled him toward his son. He had to take the chance. "Cole," he called out again, this time softer, an invitation rather than an intrusion. His son looked up, incredulity etched into his features. The uncertainty in Cole's eyes was met with heightened resolve in Michael. The current between them had been fraught with tension. Now it hung with a fragile possibility. "Can we talk?" Michael asked, each word weighted with sincerity and hope. "About what?" Cole retorted, defending his emotional ground but without anger, merely skepticism. "Everything. About how I can be a part of your life," Michael replied. The answer came out before he could second-guess himself. For a long moment, silence ruled the space between them. It felt like a suspended breath in a fading world that suddenly shifted to acute clarity. Then Cole sighed, conceding to curiosity. "I don't know if it's that easy. I don't expect it to be," Michael admitted, feeling relieved yet anxious. "But I want to show you I care. Starting with being honest if you want to give me that chance." Instinctively, he sensed the tension between them loosening. The dialogue was awkward, rife with the remnants of unspoken wounds, yet it was real. For the first time, he saw a flicker of something in Cole's eyes, a spark of consideration. Michael walked into the tumultuous terrain of vulnerability, ready to engage. It would require a continual commitment, a restructuring of their long-worn habits. Yet, with every fiber of his being, he knew they needed to unravel this path together. It would take time, but he was willing to. As they settled into a dialogue, sunlight dipping low in the sky began to drape the field in gold, a promising metaphor for their emerging connection. Michael realized his journey to mend his relationship with Cole was just beginning. But as he ventured deeper, a stirring question echoed in his mind. What were the sacrifices he would have to make to be the father Cole truly deserved? Each answer would unlock new layers of challenge, demanding he confront his past while forging a resolute present. Little did he know, their journey had merely crossed the threshold of true engagement. The terrain ahead was laden with unexpected revelations and hidden crossroads that would test the core of their bond. The moment of truth lingered just outside their reach. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the field, Michael felt a subtle shift within him. He sensed not just the warmth of the fading light but also the fragile connection beginning to untangle between him and Cole. But this endeavor was not merely about bridging the chasm already made. It was also a call to introspection, a challenge to confront his own ambitions and failures as a father. Cole looked at him with apprehension, the awkward silence stretching as they navigated their first tentative steps into a conversation long overdue. Michael took a deep breath, mentally preparing himself for the vulnerability that lay ahead. "Can we start with why you don't want me around?" he ventured, heart pounding in anticipation. Cole's expression hardened briefly before he relented. "It's not about wanting or not wanting you around. You just never acted like a dad." The blunt statement hit Michael squarely in the chest. While he had always viewed himself as a successful businessman, he realized he had let that same drive for achievement cloud his judgment in being a father. "I know," Michael confessed, each word dripping with remorse. "I've messed up, Cole. I focused so much on work, on providing, that I never once considered what you truly needed from me." He was surprised by the sincerity in his own voice, and it felt like a starting point. Recognizing his shortcomings was the first step toward regaining the trust that had been eroded over the years. Cole shifted uncomfortably. The admission may have eased some tension, but it also exposed vulnerability Michael knew his son had not yet learned to embrace. "It's not enough to say sorry," Cole replied, bitterness tempered with resignation. "Words don't mean anything if you don't back them up." The challenge hung in the air between them like an unspoken pact. Michael could sense that this would not be a simple dialogue. It would require more than polite conversations and feel-good declarations. It was evident he needed a strategy, a clear, actionable plan to change the narrative of their relationship. "What do you want from me?" he asked, genuinely curious. Cole hesitated, the weight of his response palpable. "I guess I want you to be there. For real. Not just when it's convenient or when you feel like it." As that honesty struck him, Michael realized he faced a stark choice. Genuine involvement would demand sacrifices and alterations to his lifestyle. His success had been built on long hours and relentless pursuits, but a recalibration was essential. He needed to challenge himself to discover how much he was willing to adapt for Cole. "Okay then, how do I start? What does being there mean for you?" he asked. The question itself felt like a leap into the unknown. Cole seemed to mull it over, and Michael saw a flicker of hope in his son's eyes. "Just show up. Come to my games, support me in school." Sounds simple, but you have to want it. And not as a checklist, you know? "I want you to want to be there." Michael nodded, feeling determination solidifying within him. This was more than a mission. It was a commitment that required daily work. He could visualize a calendar with noted game days and significant events marking his presence as a cornerstone in their relationship. As the evening air cooled around them, Michael felt a sense of clarity. If he were to mend things, he had to shift his priorities. The balance between work and family had to tilt favorably toward Cole. But doubts nagged at him. What if he failed again? "I can commit to that," he asserted, a newfound resolve in his voice. "But it's not going to be perfect. I'll stumble along the way. Just know I'm trying." Cole met his gaze, the apprehension starting to morph into cautious expectancy. Trying is better than doing nothing. In that moment, Michael felt galvanized to take action and slowly build a foundation of trust that had long been absent. It would be incremental, a series of small moments strung together to form a solid string of connection. But deep down, he wondered whether history would repeat itself. Could he truly change the trajectory of their relationship? As they wrapped up their conversation, a flicker of uncertainty loomed over Michael. Glancing back at Cole, he understood their journey would not be an easy one. Unresolved issues and emotional baggage lingered heavily. What lay ahead would require far more than verbal affirmations. It would necessitate patience, resilience, and the courage to unveil even the most painful parts of himself. This was a new beginning, but a voice in his mind whispered a caution. The unresolved shadows of his past would emerge to test everything he aimed to rebuild. Just how strong would he be when faced with the ghosts of his previous failures? As they gathered up their thoughts, a determined question gripped him. What occurs when the weight of broken trust meets the challenge of rekindled hope? The following morning, Michael awoke to a dull ache that had settled in his chest, a clear manifestation of both excitement and trepidation. The sun peeked through the slightly parted curtains, illuminating the path ahead that felt both invigorating and overwhelming. Today marked the beginning of a commitment he hadn't planned for but now couldn't avoid. As he sipped his coffee, an old routine that had replayed like clockwork, he pondered the changes ahead. Thoughts spiraled through his mind. How many games had he missed? How many milestones had slipped by unnoticed? Each sip felt heavier, a reminder of years that he had forfeited in pursuit of success. Determined not to let fear dictate his actions, Michael pulled out the calendar app on his phone. Today's date flashed at him, a blank slate ready for his input. He began diligently typing in Cole's next soccer match, pencil poised over the notepad for the other important dates they had discussed. With each entry, he felt a layer of responsibility settle upon his shoulders. Yet with that heaviness came a resolve he hadn't felt in years. Michael had always prided himself on his meticulous planning for meetings and strategy sessions. But planning for his son's needs required a different mindset. He needed to be in the moment, responsive, open. Could he balance the instinct to strategize against the need for authentic presence? As the hours drifted, his eagerness to embrace this new role only grew. He knew he had to show up at school today not just as a visitor in the background but as an engaged parent alongside the other dads. Perhaps he could volunteer for the setting up of the new equipment or offer help with the school fundraiser. The thought made his heart race. What if he stumbled over his words or made things awkward? Anxious, he dismissed the thoughts even as they crept back in, insisting that this was a new chapter, not an echo of failures past. Arriving at the school, he felt an immediate shift in atmosphere. The sounds of laughter and chatter, the buzz of children running here and there, filled him with a mix of apprehension and hope. He spotted Cole among a cluster of classmates, the boy's laughter a melodic reminder of the bond he was striving to rebuild. "Michael!" A voice called out, pulling him from his reverie. It was Mrs. Collins, the school counselor. Her warm smile felt like a lifeline amidst the sea of uncertainty. "Hey, I'm here to help out today. Just wanted to be more involved," he replied, aware of how hollow the confession felt when placed against the weight of his past inaction. Mrs. Collins raised an eyebrow, a flicker of skepticism in her eyes. "That's great to hear. Cole has mentioned the changes you're trying to make. He has been a little more hopeful." Her words struck Michael deeply. Could it be that his son had been harboring some latent belief that things could improve? That glimmer of optimism, torn from years of disappointment, was heart-wrenching yet invigorating. "Hopeful? Huh? I plan to keep that going," he said, determination resounding in his voice. This was not merely about repair. It was about nurturing a dynamic that had always been fraught with complications. As the hours passed, Michael helped out where he could, interacting with other parents while keeping an eye out for Cole. Each moment where he made eye contact with his son fortified the conviction that he was on the right path. But beneath his growing excitement lurked doubts. What if he didn't measure up? What if he only added to the shadows hovering over their relationship? Late afternoon, he found himself seated at the edge of the field, watching Cole play in a practice scrimmage. His son's effortless joy in motion stirred something within him. Michael noted the raw talent, the commitment reflected in Cole's effort. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to be more than just an observer. The game ended, and Cole rushed over, exhilarated. "Did you see that goal?" he exclaimed, breathless enthusiasm spilling from every word. "I saw. You played brilliantly," Michael replied, hiding the quiver of vulnerability sailing through him. "Thanks. You coming to the game this Saturday?" Cole asked, innocent anticipation shining in his eyes. "Absolutely," Michael affirmed, churning determination into promise. As they spoke, shadows of Michael's past whispered warnings. What if he faltered? Would Cole retract the hope he had begun to build? Just as relief washed over him, the fear of not being enough returned, darker and more imposing. "Good. I've been practicing," Cole shared, excitement spilling over, but Michael could sense the hesitation creeping back. "Cole, I'm really trying to be here. I promise," he added, words tumbling from him with more urgency than he intended. "Just show up," his son replied, echoing their earlier conversation as they headed toward the exit. Michael wasn't sure how much weight a simple phrase carried in a relationship layered in complexities. But as he walked beside Cole, the enormity of their next steps loomed ahead. What if disappointment replaced hope? With uncertainty weighing on him, he contemplated the upcoming game, the stakes of meaningful engagement heightened by the knowledge that true connections demanded relentless effort and consistent follow-through. How long would he be able to keep this commitment? What sacrifices would it take to ensure this wasn't merely a fleeting resolve? The shadows of his past loomed, and with every step they took together, the echoes of doubt grew louder, demanding to be faced head-on as they approached the car. A single thought punctuated his resolve like a beacon amid the fog. The time had come to face the truth behind the shadows, and he needed to reckon not only with the ghosts of who he was but also with who he could become for Cole. The day had arrived. The day Michael Donovan would finally step foot into his son's soccer game as a committed father, not as an observer hiding behind a mask. Standing at the edge of the field, excitement coursed through him mixed with apprehension. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the grassy pitch where teenagers gathered, but all he could focus on was Cole, his son, vibrant and thriving in this moment of pure joy. As the whistle blew and the game kicked off, Michael was reminded of every minute he had missed, every opportunity passed, and the years that had slipped away into silence. But today marked a turning point. Known once for his tactical business decisions, he now felt the weight of emotional strategy pressing on his chest. He had to prove to Cole he was worthy of trust, worthy of connection. "Let us go, Wilson." Cole's voice rang out, authority and passion mixed seamlessly as he commanded the field. Michael's heart swelled with pride. From the sidelines, he cheered, and for the first time, the sound resonated with sincerity, devoid of the detachment that oft accompanied his prior career achievements. Today, he was not a millionaire. He was simply a father, supporting his son as the game progressed. Michael spotted Cole's eyes meeting his in brief flashes. Those moments were electric, each connection igniting hope amidst the uncertainties. Following a spectacular save, Cole's teammates gathered around him in celebration, and for a minute, the burgeoning connection between father and son flourished in the shared energy of the game. After the final whistle blew and the team emerged victorious, the crowd erupted in cheers. The joy was palpable, and Michael felt the urge to rush onto the field, to embrace Cole and preserve this pivotal moment. But today was about more than grand gestures. As Michael joined the throng of parents flooding the sidelines, he restrained his excitement, respecting Cole's need for independence while silently vowing to be a steady presence moving forward. Cole approached amid the jubilant buzz, breathless and glowing. "Did you see that second goal?" he exclaimed, vibrant energy radiating from him. Michael smiled, his enthusiasm palpable. "That was incredible. You really have a talent for this, Cole. I'm proud of you," he said, realizing just how true those words were. "Thanks, Dad. Are you coming to the next game?" Cole asked. A hint of apprehension lingered within his eager expression. Although Michael had blocked out the failures of the past, he knew every question came steeped in doubt. "Absolutely. Not only that, I'll be there to help however I can," Michael assured. As if a layer veiled over their interactions was peeled away, he felt the rush of renewal that each exchanged word pulled them further from their past. Later that evening, amidst the remnants of celebration, Michael sat on his couch, reflecting. The day had brought closure, a closure not irrevocable like the finality of an ending but rather a bridge that led to new beginnings. The journey he had embarked upon demanded change, action, and presence. He had taken the first steps, showing Cole that his aspirations of fatherhood were not simply inscribed in promises but imbued with deliberate choices. From that day on, he was determined to dismantle the walls that had long restrained their bond. He began family dinners, linking their days over shared meals and the relationships that thread through the tapestry of their lives. He made a point to attend Cole's art shows and soccer games, not just to watch but to actively engage in conversations about life, growth, and emotion. The initial hesitations dissipated as conversations deepened. Vulnerability chased away the shadows that once contested honesty. Beyond the tangible routines, Michael actively sought to dismantle the remnants of his past, each missed opportunity, a lesson in perseverance and love. While once he consolidated his self-worth with net capital and strategic dealings, He now learned to measure fulfillment through the emotional dividends of connection and presence with Cole. Recognition came on a chilly autumn afternoon. With newfound trust, Cole confided in Michael about his struggles in school, and in those moments of vulnerability, they forged an unbreakable bond. Michael felt a pride so distinct, so unlike anything tied to corporate success. One evening, while working through a particularly frustrating homework block, Cole turned to him and said, "Thanks for always being here, Dad. It means a lot." Those simple words became the currency of their revived relationship, the acknowledgement he had long craved. Michael had successfully transitioned from ghostly observers to devoted participants in each other's lives, allowing healing to take place. He realized that through simple actions, through consistency, accountability, and displayed affection, transformations could flourish. As months passed and seasons changed, they moved steadily into their new rhythm. Michael was no longer just a father. He had become a reliable ally, a single steady source of support, casting away the misguided pursuits of the past. In that reflection, a deep satisfaction anchored in him that no amount of financial success could ever achieve. He had nurtured his greatest venture, proving not just to Cole but also to himself that individual transformation stemmed from a willingness to connect authentically, a testament to the growth of a father who embraced vulnerability as strength. And the quiet company of the evening, Michael's heart resonated a truth that he had fought hard to understand. It's never too late to redefine oneself, to foster relationships anchored in love and sincerity. And just as the days ahead promised fresh challenges, Michael stood firm, embracing them with the renewed understanding that both he and Cole could conquer the world together. The definition of success morphed entirely. For now, they strived forward, hand in hand, towards brighter horizons filled with hope and connection. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.